Today is day 28. The title of today's reading from this book is No Defense Needed. Try not to defend your life to others. It's tempting to explain your choices, to provide evidence that you did the best you could or that your convictions are pure and your motives are selfless. We're all a bundle of needs, making decisions that are both selfless and self-interested. The only criteria that matters in evaluating how you spent today is the one you've chosen to live by, today. The criteria shifts and changes. Some years you have more energy for self-sacrifice and understanding, and others you find you need someone to give you a break, to make up for what you don't have, to be the strength you lack. Some years you find resources and help, and others it seems no one gets what you're going through and it's entirely up to you to figure out the way forward. Some years you're blindsided by facts you never imagined would be the substance of your family, of your life. We have our ideals, they matter. And we have our limits, they matter too. One person, you, me, can change the entire dynamic in a home by making better, more emotionally supportive, empathetic choices. But it's also true that one person can wreck the peace by not cooperating, asserting a will that is unresponsive to the best care and kindness you give. A family is an interdependent system. No one person can carry it alone. There must be give and take, support and nurture for each person, even if in uneven doses at times. All you can do is become the most healthy version of you that you can be, taking care of your welfare so that you don't wake up one day and flip out. You'll be given good advice. Be generous, give, share, listen, pay attention, make adjustments. Become a partner to your kids, to your spouse. Forgive, find the good, the true, the pure. Let go of petty resentments and high expectations. But you also need to care for yourself. Be sure that you, the caregiver, receives care too, by someone, somehow, somewhere. It's how you keep going. When you hit your limits, you'll get advice to give more. You'll be told what the ideals are. You'll be reminded of your original goals. You'll try harder. We women are especially likely to take this advice to heart. Just remember, in the trying, which is right and noble and good, stand up for yourself too. You matter as much to the whole system as all the people you love and serve freely every day. Be good to yourself, no matter what that looks like. You get one life too. It needs to be a good, peace-filled, lovely one. No Joan of Abecas here, no Teresa of Calculators allowed. Stay connected to your well-being while you give to the ones you love. That's it. Good night. Although I'll say good morning. Quote of the day. Needed this. Thank you. Jackie Pierce Nell. Sustaining thought. Without you, the system falls apart. Give to yourself so you can give to others without resentment. So one of the things that I was thinking about when I originally wrote that piece was that we spend a lot of time explaining our choices. You know, I know we've talked about the political season already, but there is a craving inherent in all of us to defend our point of view because we want so badly to be understood. It's not that we need everyone to agree, it's that we need everyone to agree that we're rational, logical people, that the choices we're making make sense. So even if somebody doesn't agree, if someone can say to you, oh, I see where you're coming from, I get why you think that way, we can sort of breathe a sigh of relief. But you can't get that from people. There's a limited circle of people who will ever give you that feeling of, oh yeah, you showed up on the map of a rational, logical human being. So when you're defending your choice to homeschool, for example, there's a limited circle of people who are outside of homeschool who are going to be able to support that idea. Because whenever you make a commitment, It threatens the similar commitment someone else has made. It feels instantly like an attack. You can't talk to a public school mom about homeschooling without her momentarily evaluating whether or not she feels close enough to her children to do it, whether or not the schools her kids are currently in are as good as the education they get if they were home with her. It's not so much that she's judging you, it's that she's judging herself. And an easier way to stay away from judging self is to judge you. So when you are in that moment where you are defending a choice, and it happens in the reverse with homeschool. Let's say you decide one of your kids should go to school. Well, now a homeschooling mother listening to you say that has to reimagine, reevaluate, reconsider, well, do I have a child who maybe should go to school, who would benefit from school? So these are the kinds of things that go on inside the person you're talking to. And these choices are far-ranging. You know, do you treat hyperactivity with drugs or without drugs? Do you give vaccinations or not? Do you stay married? Do you use state funding for your homeschool? All of these require thoughtful consideration by you. And you're going to arrive at a conclusion based on all of the pieces of information about you that had arrived at this point in time. It might not even be that you would make this decision had you been 10 years earlier or 10 years later or even 10 minutes earlier or 10 minutes later. But at this moment in time, all the pieces of you conspire to make this choice. And then we share that choice with somebody else. And that person with a whole different constellation of factors is drawing a different one, drawing a different conclusion. And suddenly, both of these are at stake because none of us are so confident in what we understand to be true that we know 100% it was the best decision. None of us. So we are instantly called into a sense of doubt when someone makes a different choice than the one we've made. So what ends up happening is people erupt in defensiveness when they don't agree, and when they do agree, they wind up being cheerleaders. It's very difficult to hold multiple perspectives at once. In fact, it's one of the skills we try to teach in Brave Writer. It matters that much to me. We actually give an entire online writing class to developing the skill of holding multiple perspectives simultaneously and dispassionately. So, you know, if you've got a teenager, follow along in that class. You'll learn things too. It's called Kids Write Intermediate, by the way, and it's all full. We'll be offering it again next semester. My point is this. You don't owe anyone a defense for your choices. It's just that we feel more secure if we defend our choices and we can rope in a few other people to give us validation. But at the core, you don't need to defend your choices. You get to show up in your own life and decide for yourself and even be wrong. Even make a choice for today that 10 years down the road you look back and you say, now that I know 10 more years worth of information, I really don't know that that was a great choice, but that's what I did at the time based on who I was then. There is room for growth, even for adults. It is not a badge of honor to be able to look back and say, I've believed the same things, thought the same things, done the same things for my entire life. That just means maybe you're not living and growing and breathing. It doesn't mean that your core values are necessarily going to change. What I'm talking about is decisions that require some kind of action on your part. It's one thing to have a value, like I value honesty. And then there's another thing to live it out. Well, how much do I tell my child about why her father and I are not staying married? Those are two different things. You can value one thing now, and then you can express it in behavior differently than maybe you would at a different point in time. So maybe you'd be super transparent, and then 10 years later look back and think, you know, I value honesty, but I didn't need to be that transparent. See what I'm saying? So this is true across the board. You can value high quality education, and that can look like public school when you start out, changing to private school midway, and then suddenly realizing this whole world of homeschooling. And so you jump in with a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 6-year-old, right? This is how we are in life. The value was good, high quality education. The choices varied based on who you are and the circumstances of your family. And you get to make those decisions and judgments throughout your life. And you get to make mistaken ones. And you get to rebound. And you get to doubt the ones you previously made. And you get to judge your own choices. Whew. But we don't need to do that to others. It would be great to see behind the choice to the value set. You know? So if somebody says to you along the lines of, oh, homeschooling just didn't work for me, I just had to throw my kids in school, have no idea how you're still doing it. You don't have to go into a big, homeschooling is the single greatest joy of my life. Our family is developing a togetherness that is unparalleled when they are in school. You know, what does that do? That just makes this woman who totally gave up on the program the feeling that she's somehow less than. But you could instead join with her and say, gosh, you know, there are days when I would love to have done the same thing. I will be so interested to see how that works out for you and your family. I hope it's an amazing adventure. Like that. You don't have to defend what you're doing. She already knows what you're doing. And you now know what she's doing. And you can rally around the other person. Oh my gosh, that must have been so painful for you to make the decision to leave your spouse. Oh my gosh, I know you. You are a health nut. To choose to put your child on Ritalin must have been devastating, was it? How are you doing now? How is that helping him? Like that. Putting yourself in the shoes of the momentous decision and allowing yourself to be curious about what's going on. And in a room of people who won't give that to you, don't defend yourself. If you say I homeschool and someone says, oh, I would never do that, how do you meet the state standards? You can laugh that off. You can say, I know, right? What a challenge I've taken on. Crazy. Like that. You don't have to jump right into the ring with them and suddenly be like, well, I don't really value the state standards. Core, you know, the Common Core is ruining education. Homeschooling gives me a chance to stand against, you know, like you don't have to do that. You can just kind of join with the spirit of this ridiculous remark that you don't even need to react to, you know? You can do that. We can do that in all arenas. I mean, it would just be a completely different Facebook if people did that around politics. Like, wow, you sound passionate about that. I can imagine that you have some, you know, strong commitments to X, Y, and Z. That's why I understand how you are. You don't have to jump right back in with, what a crazy person you are. I'm less crazy over here. That just creates a lot of bad blood. So as you are talking about homeschooling, you know, on the soccer field, while you're watching your kids do gymnastics and you're all trapped behind that little glass wall, you know, focus on the humanity of your life, not the idealism. You don't owe everyone a defense of homeschooling's, you know, importance in a free society. Like, that's not the goal. You're a homeschooler, you got kids, and everybody's trying to get education into their children. I remember when I had Noah and Johanna, they were in this gymnastics class. This is why it comes fresh to mind. And I sat upstairs. We had a little glass wall. We were able to watch them practicing gymnastics. And I sat next to a mom who turned out to be a USC alumni and a Kappa Kappa Gamma. I went to UCLA and was a Kappa Kappa Gamma. So we formed an instant friendship. The difference was she and her husband had a ton of money and they used the private school system. And my husband and I had no money and we were homeschoolers. And so the two of us sort of bonded over our sorority sisterhood and talked about education. And her kids were all in private schools, of course. So we got into this discussion, and I remember realizing that we had things that we could bond over that were different than just school. We could bond over the fact that we both valued education. We both believed in higher education. We were interested in making sure our kids had the best opportunities at the other end. She grew to appreciate homeschooling, and I grew to appreciate private schooling. That said, and I know this happens to all of you, I remember she brought up a packet of her kids' work that she was organizing for them to do after gymnastics class, and it looked daunting to me as a homeschooler. Do you know that experience? You know, you're just going along, you're living your homeschool life, you're doing these amazing activities, you're hanging out with other families, field trips, you snuggle, you read great books, and then all of a sudden, the Xerox pages of a packet for fourth grade makes its way into your awareness, and you're watching her flip through it, and you're like, oh my goodness, I've never done Venn diagrams. Oh shoot, they're doing Venn diagrams in fourth grade and I haven't done Venn diagrams? Oh my gosh, what a dumb decision to homeschool. I need to start saving money and send them to that great private school where they don't skip Venn diagrams. Have you ever had that experience? Yeah. So part of your defensiveness is birthed out of insecurity. After you are confronted with a Venn diagram packet, yeah, you're going to feel a little shaky about your choice. But the same is true for her, because when you're sharing about these high quality books you're reading aloud, or poetry tea time, or the way that you can just in the morning pick up and go on a hike at some beautiful outdoor location, she's also having a reaction to that. She's also a little bit wondering if maybe she doesn't love her kids as much as you do because she isn't that committed. She's feeling guilty that she enjoys sending them off to school, and you seem to think it's fabulous to spend 24 hours a day with 7 children, 365 days a year, right? That's going on in both directions. Defensiveness is protecting yourself from guilt, from embarrassment, from worry and anxiety. That's all that it is, you know? And it's going in both directions. And it can even help to name it, to just name it. Say, holy smokes, I'm looking over your shoulder at this fourth grade packet and I'm like, I gotta do some Venn diagramming. And then laugh. Let it be. Ask questions. What else are they doing in fourth grade? You know, while I was in that gymnastics environment, there were a whole bunch of public school moms from the same school district. And they told the funniest story I've ever heard in my life. So I'm going to share it now because it is a classic example of someone with a public school kid sharing the truth. And it killed me. It made me laugh so hard. And I thought, would I have admitted the same thing as a homeschooler? So this one mom talked about how in their schoolrooms, they all had a pet that a kid could take home. So one of the kids decided to bring home this rat and have it for the weekend. So the mom and the kids are playing with the rat, and all of a sudden, her like 6-year-old child reached into the little cage and pulled the rat out by the tail. The tail came off, and the mother freaked out. She's like, oh my gosh, I cannot send my daughter back to school with a rat missing a tail. She was so worried that this would become like the bullying moment of this child's whole life. So she calls the vet and she asks the vet, how do you fix a tail that has come off of a rat? And they're like, well, bring it in, we can do surgery. So she brings the tail, brings the rat, takes it to the vet. The vet puts the rat under, sews the little tail back on, sends the rat home. Now you have to remember, these are $3 rats, correct? Like, we're not talking a dog. This is a pet rat from a classroom. They stitched the tail back on, and now the mom, every 2 hours of the night, has to use an eyedropper to give it pain medication and antibiotics. So the kid is sleeping, right? What 8-year-old kid has to take care of the rat that didn't have a tail? The mother gets this job. So she's setting her alarm every 2 hours, waking up the rat, dropping the stuff in, and the rat heals and the tail heals. And she had to keep it home, like, beyond the weekend. So they had to tell the teacher, oh, the rat got sick, we're taking care of it, we'll bring it back in a week. So after this week of torment of nightly eye dropping every 2 hours, the tail is healing beautifully. The mom is feeling really proud of herself, and the rat's running around in his little cage, and she's eating a peanut butter cracker, and she thinks, oh, he needs a treat. So she breaks off a little piece of this peanut butter cracker, feeds it to the rat, and this is the sad, macabre part, who chokes on the peanut butter and dies in that moment. And this mom was just like, Are you kidding me right now? So, and her husband's already yelled at her for spending, $200 on the surgery for this rat. And the rat died. The mom, with all that she's trying to do to save her daughter's reputation in the school, killed the rat. So then she just goes out and buys another rat that looks basically the same, and nobody knew. And I'm like, oh my Lord, like, is that not what mothers do? So you think about the level of anxiety that was in that story. And it was all built around this notion of public school, the possibility of bullying, of being seen as a bad kid, of wanting this rat not to die, of wanting her 6-year-old son not to feel bad. Like, this is what we do. And it's no more conscientious to be a public school parent than a homeschool parent, because if you're a parent, you worry about everything all the time, and you are protecting your children and trying to make sure that their world is wonderful, right? So anyway, that story, I swear it makes me laugh every time I think about it, even though, you don't want to laugh about a poor rat dying. But here's this mother literally doing everything you can to protect her child in a school environment, and then feeling good about her success, and then completely undoing it, right? Like, completely not understanding that rats can't eat peanut butter. And this is how it is for all of us, right? This is how it is for all of us. We are all just trying to rescue our children from the broken rat. I haven't thought of that story in so long. It's so funny. So funny. Okay, so don't defend yourself. Live fully into your choices. Have a little space for the choices of others. When somebody brings something up that triggers you, that makes you feel like I should defend myself, join with it. Be human. If they say, whoa, I can't imagine being with my kids 24 hours a day, say, I know, right? I never knew I could do it. It's crazy. But there are days I gotta sneak off like that. Be human. You don't have to walk around with a sandwich board for homeschooling. Homeschooling's gonna be fine. The early martyrs have already died and spilt their blood. You are not in that category anymore. Homeschooling is legal in all 50 states in most countries of the world. It is not about to be taken away from us. Yes, there are aspects of homeschooling we have to continue to fight for, but not on the soccer field with another mom. That's not the place. If you want to protect the right to homeschool, get involved in those kinds of political situations and circumstances that advance the cause of homeschool. But don't take it out on poor, Mary watching her kid kick a soccer ball. She doesn't need you to defend it. Okay? Yeah, be human. All right, everybody, I'm going to get off so that I don't have to leave when the doorbell rings. And I think I heard the truck. So I've got a bed delivery happening this morning. This was a much shorter one, but this will allow you to get on with your day. Thanks for joining me. We will be back this time tomorrow for another day of A Gracious Space. And I'm just going to ask again, because I'm going to do it periodically, if you liked the book and you want to review it on our Amazon page, we would really appreciate it. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day. Live honestly, write bravely, no defense needed. See you tomorrow. Bye.